I finally have a fancy office chair. Oh fuck. Okay, let's try that again. Yeah, I finally got an office chair. Yo, I was actually using a school chair for the last 2 years, and I mean, it worked fine because I didn't spend that much time at home, but now I'm working full time from home. Ish. Yeah, no, I don't know how I spent 13 years in that thing, eh? What's up guys, Tinaya. I work in Cape Town CBD. That's where the company offices are. And when I first moved to Cape Town 2 years ago, I wanted to stay as close as possible to work because, well, I can save on traffic, you know. Oh man, I hate spending too much time in traffic. Shorter travel times, and I like things, okay? Staying in town means I'm close to the waterfront, I'm close to the nice beaches of Cape Town, I'm close to Table Mountain and all these other nice places. Eh? There's a really beautiful part of the city called Greenpoint. It's about 10 minutes from work. Very expensive place to stay in. However, when I was apartment hunting back when I started working, I found a really nice deal. It was literally a 2-minute walk to the beach. Oh. And it's actually the beach where I usually go dolphin watching. So it was gonna be like a perfect place. So I submitted my application and all the documents needed, bank statement and all that other shit. And then I waited for a response. So the dude calls me back the next day and he's like, yeah, unfortunately you don't meet the requirements, so you're gonna have to look somewhere else. I was like, okay, at least can you tell me why, so that maybe it's something I can work on, And he's like, well, fam, have you taken a look at your bank statement though? No, I'm joking. He mentioned my credit score. Apparently my credit score wasn't good enough. And that's the first time I actually realized that South Africa uses credit scores. Credit scores are a thing in South Africa. I come from Zim, and credit scores to me is just something I saw on TV. Yeah, turns out South Africa also does that shit. And that was my first time finding out that, credit scores are a thing and I should probably work on it. And that's the first thing, that's the first way credit scores affect your life. Is when you want to rent, you're gonna have very little options when it comes to where you can rent. The place I'm referring to is Greenpoint. I could afford the place, right? I hadn't actually started my job. It was like a few days before I started working, so I technically wasn't working just yet. My bank statement was actually pretty sad. Remember, I was a student and I was out of South Africa for 6 months, and it had a zero balance anyway. So, and I had to use my bank statement. And to top it off, I'm a foreigner, and it was just a bad combination of unfortunate circumstances. If you have a bad credit score, you end up having to rent in places that you otherwise wouldn't want to really rent in. In my case, I found a really nice place actually. It was a much better deal than I would have gotten there. There's parking, security, all those nice things, and it's a lot closer to work. So I guess it kind of worked out for me. But this actually happens even for students. I stayed in Rands, so I never got to experience that. But if you want to stay anywhere close to UCT, if you want to stay in a very convenient place, cheap, close to necessities, and just UCT, then you're gonna have to have a good credit score, because those places are in high demand, which means the owners have a wide variety of very rich people to give that apartment to. Okay, let's move on to the next big way that credit scores affect your life, and that is when you want to borrow some money. Money does not grow in trees. That is a phrase I got to understand from a very young age. I think probably the first time I could ask for something, it was probably an answer. Can I have Ninki? Do you have the money? Do you have the money? Money doesn't grow on trees, right? Many of us have expensive desires. For example, I would love to own an AMG C63. Oh my God, that is a beautiful car. Unfortunately, it costs 1 million rands minimum. I think that's the starting price. I would also like to upgrade my lenses. I think the next lens upgrade I want costs 15,000 rands. That's the 50mm f1.4 Sigma. Maybe I want to buy a house. I fancy an apartment in Greenpoint where I was rejected. Maybe I'll just buy it just to spite them. But an average apartment there costs 3-4 million rands, which is a lot of money. For most of us adults, we don't have an endless cache of money, which means that sounds funny. I, like most of us adults out here, have a fixed salary, which means it will take me probably the rest of my life to save up enough money to buy that apartment. So I have to use other options to buy the apartment. One of those options is to borrow some money from a bank. Guess what? If you have a bad credit score, it's gonna be very expensive to get that loan, eh? Actually, this is probably why loan sharks exist. Because if the bank doesn't want to give you money and you are desperate for money, where do you go? And those niggas will charge you 25% interest per month until you pay it back. Cars and houses aren't the only reason why you'd ever want to borrow money. Let's say, for example, you have a health complication. You get cancer and you have to do chemotherapy, which apparently costs a lot of money. Where are you going to get that money? The bank. You're gonna have to borrow again. Or let's say you want to start a business. You know, you might have the best business plan ever. You might have even tested it out a little bit and you can prove it makes money. But if you have a bad credit score, no one will ever want to invest in you, because why? That's bad business. And then there's the ultimate method of borrowing money, and that is credit cards. Credit cards are perhaps the most expensive way to borrow money, and they work exactly like loans. You borrow some money and then you pay back on a monthly basis, and by the time you finish paying, you've paid back what you borrowed plus a little bit extra. That little bit extra is interest. Now with credit cards, that interest is quite steep, eh? There are ways you can actually safely borrow money using a credit card and not get charged any interest actually, but we will talk about those later. But essentially, if you have a bad credit score, well, you guessed it, you're gonna have a very, very high interest rate on your credit card. Here's a really basic example just to illustrate how much having a good credit score can really save you a lot of money. Let's say you wanna buy a house and you wanna pay 1 million rands for that house. You're gonna get a mortgage, and if you have a very good credit score, you might be able to get it right now at like 7% interest rate, which means that you'll be paying back about 7,000 rands a month. If you have a bad credit score, then that loan is going to end up costing you 8, 9, 10%, which means that over 20 years, you'll be paying 2, 3, 4,000 rands extra compared to somebody who has a good credit score. Another way your credit score affects your life is how you pay for things. I've already kind of hinted through mortgages and cars and stuff, but right now, I have a very old laptop, right? And I'm due for an upgrade, probably in the next year or so. The cheapest laptop that meets my basic requirements is gonna cost me like 20,000 rands. So that's a laptop that has, 15-inch screen, Core i9, probably like 10th generation, if that's a thing. That kind of thing. It's gonna cost me like 20,000 rands. Now, if I manage, let's say I manage to squeeze out 2,000 rands a month from my budget, it will take me 2 years to save up for that laptop. What if I could ask Apple or whatever company I want to buy the laptop from, I could ask them to give me the laptop and then I'll pay them back the 2,000 rands a month for the next 2 years. That's called buying on credit. And if you have a bad credit score, well, you guessed it, it's not gonna happen. You're gonna have to save that money or maybe go to a loan shark, which is not really something I'd recommend you do. So not only will you be able to buy more things on credit, but even for certain things, you may not even have to pay a deposit. For example, if you want to rent a car and you don't have a credit card, then you're gonna have to pay a deposit of like 3, 4, 5, 10,000 rands, which is, not all of us have money just lying around. However, if you have a credit card, then you can actually just rent that car without any deposit, because they can just charge your card if they need to like screw you over. But yeah, that's a really massive advantage when it comes to having a good credit score. You can buy things without having to put in a massive deposit. The same applies to when you actually want to buy a car or when you want to buy a house or pretty much any loan. If you have a good credit score, then you usually don't have to pay any deposit, which is really nice. And that's really nice, eh? You see how rich people just live very simple lives. They don't have to pay anything. They just pay little small fees a month and then that's it. If you're poor, you can't afford to do that, which means you have to borrow lots of money and it's a mess, eh? And then the last thing I'm going to mention in the video is insurance. If you ever wondered how they determine how much you pay per month for insurance, well, it's all about risk, okay? The higher the risk, then the more you pay. That's why if you have a Golf GTI, you probably pay at least 1,000 rands for insurance. But if you have like an i20, you can get away with like 400 rands for insurance or something. But I know for a fact that if you have a Golf, if you have a VW car, then you're gonna pay significantly higher insurance premiums. Why? Because A Golf in South Africa is a very high risk. If you buy a Golf, you're basically asking to be robbed. Well, not really, but like, you know what I mean. Now, if you have a bad credit score and you have a Golf, if you have a bad credit score, that means that insurance companies are going to view you as a higher risk individual, and as a result, they're going to charge you more. Just because, just in case you stop paying, at least they manage to squeeze out as much money as they can from you before you stop paying your fees. Okay, that's 3 or 4 different ways that credit scores affect your life. In the next video, we're gonna talk about credit cards. Credit cards. What are they? What do you do with them? Do you eat them? Do you give them away for free? No, you don't. Do not ever give away your credit card. If you have any questions regarding money, credit, and borrowing money or whatever related to credit in this video series, leave a comment, let me know, and I'll maybe make a video about it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you'd like to hear me talk about how to be an adult. Smash that like button so that you can let me and YouTube know that you enjoyed the video. And before you leave, make sure to check out this video here. YouTube is convinced you're gonna like that one. If you've watched that one, maybe check out this one here or this playlist. And if you've watched all these videos, maybe subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Okay, you have a good day.